Hi, today we're talking about ellipses. This is from your ellipse worksheet 9.3. Let's start with number 1. So it says graph the equation, identify the vertices, covertices, and the foci of the ellipse. So for number 1, we have x squared over 16 plus y squared over 36 equals 1. And I kind of wrote down the general form of an ellipse off to the side here, x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared equals 1. Now we could also rewrite that as x squared over b squared plus y squared over a squared equals 1. And the only change here is that my a is always going to indicate my major axis, meaning the longest part of my ellipses, or the length of the ellipses versus the width. So when I look at my x and y, if I look at the bigger one, the bigger of the two should always be my a. So in this case, my a is going to be the square root of 36, which is 6. So the fact that it's under y squared is telling me that I'm going to have a vertical major axis. So finding my a, I'm going to go ahead and just write it what b would be, which would be the square root of 16. Which is 4. Once I know what a and b are, then I can go ahead and write my vertices. My vertices is always with a. My vertices is going to be my a, which we know is under y, so it's going to be 0, comma, plus or minus my a, which is 6. Now, if the a were under the x, then this would be 6, comma 0. But because it's under the y, it's 0, comma 6, meaning that this should be in the y portion of the coordinate. The covertices, then, is with my b coordinate. So my b is under the x, therefore it's the x coordinate, and it is plus or minus b, which is 4, comma 0. So I can go ahead and plot those things right away. My vertices here, I'm going to have 0, comma 6, and 0, comma negative 6. My covertices are 4, comma 0, and negative 4, comma 0. So I can already see the shape of my ellipse taking shape, kind of how it's going to look. The next thing I need to look at is the foci of the ellipse. To find the foci, I take c squared equals a squared minus b squared. The c being my foci. So if I take a look here, my a squared, I said, was the 36. It's the bigger of the two. So I have 6 squared equals, or c squared equals 36 minus 16, which is 20. And if I take the square root of both sides of that, I'm going to have c equals the square root of 20. And if I were to simplify or reduce that as much as possible, that becomes the square root of 4 times the square root of 5, which is 2 square root of 5. And if I plug in 2 square root of 5 in my calculator, I will get about 4.47. To write the foci, though, they have to be written as points. So to write this foci as points, I'm going to rewrite this as, and because it's on the major axis always, we're going to write this as a y coordinate. So it's going to be 0, comma, plus or minus 2 square root of 5. So if I plot these, I have 4.47 in a positive direction and about 4.47 in a negative direction. Now that I have plotted all my points, I simply have to connect my vertices and covertices to make an ellipse. Now, I apologize because I'm just really not fabulous at making curves on the computer, so my ellipse is not going to be beautiful. But after you make those connections, your ellipse should look like an ovular or elliptical figure, like so. The next problem says write an equation of the ellipse with the given characteristics and the center at 0, 0. So all the ellipses that we've been dealing with have had a center at 0, 0. This one has a vertex of 3, 0 and a co-vertex of 0, 2. I'm going to take a look at my vertex first, noticing that my vertex has the x-coordinate portion would be my A. So because this is in the x area, I know that my A is under x squared versus under y squared. So I can identify my A as 3. My co-vertex would be 0, 2, so I can identify my B as 2. Again, this is the general form of an ellipse, so I now just have to plug in what I know A and B to be. So if I do that, I'm going to get x squared, and I said that I know my A was under my x because it was in the x portion of the coordinate for the vertex. So I will just simply do A squared, which is 9. And then I have y squared over my b squared, which here happens to be 2. So 2 squared is 4, and then that would equal 1. So the biggest thing here to remember is looking at the vertex, is it the x or the y? That will tell you where your A is going to go under. Is it going to go under the x or is it going to go under the y? If you have any questions, please see me or Mr. Daniels, and have a fabulous time doing your homework.